Hello and welcome to a new Planet Zoo guide. This is a basic CC farming guide, mostly for franchise zoos. You can also use it in your challenge mode zoos, of course, but it won't work quite as well because you can't sell an animal for 10,000 CC. So be aware of that. Now, as you can see, I started off with some zebras. The initial CC I had, and I got like another 100 just from logging in. That is of course something you can do, log in every day and just take 100, but it's gonna take some time. So I got us a zebra habitat set up here. There's one male in here, 4 females. I could buy a 5th actually, let's just do that. And the basic idea of this is that you build yourself a specific zoo and use that zoo literally just to breed animals, to sell them for CC. You know, you can keep the really good ones for your own zoo if you want to. And that is essentially the best way to just quickly farm CC. Now, there are a few basic rules here. Because this is not sandbox, you don't have unlimited money or anything like that, so you will have to take that into consideration. Meaning, you do need to sort of have a zoo that still functions. And while these zebras are just gonna breed in the background, and we can wait for offspring, I'm just going to explain how this works. Very basically. And we'll take a look at the Wikipedia for that. So, I'm going to tell you what animals you don't want for these sort of things. First one being the aardvark as an example. Why? We have one male and one female. We're not gonna have a lot of offspring, they always only have one offspring. You know, they have a relatively long interbirth period. African buffaloes, we don't want those because first of all there's one dominant male bull, which would be fine, but he goes sterile at 15. All of them go sterile at 15. But they can go up to like 22 or even higher, so I mean you can always kick them out early on, but in comparison to how much you spend for the animals, you're not exactly getting the best value. African elephants are good, but they're freaking expensive to get in the beginning, so... wild dogs, alpha female and alpha male, nope. Giant tortoises, they take like 20 something years to age up, or like was it 12? I don't know. They take too long to age up, 25 years, yeah. Which means it's gonna take 25 years to sell the offspring. Don't do that. Now, going on to animals you could use, just like the zebra. I'd recommend any, you know, animal like the common warthog even. Warthog. I always call them warthog, they're warthogs. You know, if you want to go for a really cheap option. Like doll sheep work because the females aren't, you know, there's no issues with the females. Gams, bogs, anything along the lines of it's cheap to keep, it's cheap to feed, you can buy it without a lot of CC, and it can reproduce fairly well. So that's sort of what you're going for, which is what we've got with the zebras. So step 1 is to just wait for all of these zebras to mate, wait for all of the females to have offspring, then you wait for the offspring to rear up, you sell the offspring, you keep the best offspring. So let's say, because obviously if you're really at the beginning you don't have a lot of CC, you can't buy any golden animals. If some of your offspring is like silver or bronze, I suppose, you want to keep them and use them to breed in the next generation. Always replace the male, because you need one male for 6 females, so that's cheaper. And then you can just build a second habitat next to this one and do the same thing over there. Then you can mix the best ones from those 2 habitats in the 3rd habitat. That's essentially how I usually do it. And then you just, you know, go all the way up till you have golden animals and you can sell those. And additionally, you can of course slowly start getting more expensive animals. I would recommend animals such as the hippopotamus, or the West African lion, because you can have a lot of females, meaning you can have a lot of offspring. You know, alternatively, you can also use animals such as the tiger, because even though like you only have 2 tigers, where are they? They have up to 4 offspring per mating event, so that's still sort of worth it. You can go for giant pandas. I mean, they're like a little bit of a hassle, but they're worth it. And you can mix them equally, so 5 males, 5 females, or 9 females, 1 male, or however you want the genetics to go. And this is essentially just a pretty good way to start off with obviously you want to do this in a second zoo, not in your main zoo. So just let this run, you know, just let it do its thing. Have a zookeeper take care of them, wait for the offspring, sell the offspring, and then you can go and buy more expensive animals, build another habitat, rinse and repeat. Now, there's two important things. First of all, don't inbreed them. Please! Like, I know that inbreeding increases the chances for albinos, or like leucistic animals, and I get that some people want to have leucistic animals, and these here both seem properly bred. But there are so many leucistic animals out there, like, see if we can find some right away. Just the wrong one. Price up. These are actually all fine. There's a fair amount of leucistic animals that are like results of inbreeding. And they have no fertility. No one's gonna buy them. Like, I'm sorry, but if I buy a rare animal for my zoo, I want their fertility and their immunity to be high. And low fertility and low immunity normally mean that the animal has been inbred. It also applies to non-albinos, of course, but non-leucistic animals, but it's something, it's gotten better now, but in the beginning, like, this one is obviously, you know, one of those animals. And you always had to check really carefully when you bought a leucistic animal that it wasn't inbred. Because you could use that to breed yourself, so also if you buy animals, be careful about that. You could, of course, if you have a certain budget, just go in and buy leucistic animals to breed them. But you don't always have a 100% chance. Plus, as you can see, all of these are from the same zoo, so they're probably siblings. So that is once again going to be a problem. You can, as I said, you can just go ahead and take your leucistic animals and make your own breeding collection out of those, which it does work. But I wouldn't recommend going for that if you just started your zoo. You know, just try to get some good stat animals going. And the other thing I wanted to address is don't start this out with carnivores. You might have seen that I mentioned that carnivores are good later on. In the beginning, they're not really, because once again, this is a franchise zoo. You won't be able to afford them. I had a huge zoo with like 5 tiger pens. I just couldn't afford them. Like, I couldn't afford the food cost or anything. It was terrible. I just gave these zebras like the most basic habitat. And now actually let's take a look at our offspring. Now first of all, most of them are female, which is fine. Except for you. And now see, now you're just gonna go through them and check if there's any with good genetics. Like her. Like, perfect. This is the one we're gonna keep, for example. Is there another one? Yep, that's another baby. Me, and like then you just go through them and you look like which ones do you want to keep, which ones do you want to sell, and you just store them. You just store them in animal trading until you open up the next pen. You don't wait for these to die. You make a second habitat. And I know that this might sound a little slow and a little boring. I usually just let this go while I'm doing my homework or something to get some CC going. Now the alternative to this basic random animal farming would be farming based on challenges, so community challenges. However, there's a problem. The current community challenge wants you to release these giraffes to the wild, meaning you won't be able to buy them. Like, you might find some in here, because Planet Zoo is selling them. But you see the prices of the others, right? And Lulu is crap. And that's like the Planet Zoo one, and all of the others are incredibly expensive. So, like, because people do need them for their own challenge. So if you already have a pair of animals that applies for a challenge, you can of course take those and just turn them into your own little breeding zoo, essentially. But if you don't have them yet, oh, good. Look at those, like, he's not gonna live long, which isn't optimal, but yeah, their stats are great. So those are the sort of things you're gonna take a look at. And then, you know, you just let this go on for a few generations. And then, as I said, you can invest into more expensive animals. It's really not difficult. But, you know, I was just thinking I might as well do a little guide on it, in case anyone is wondering about it. The animals I normally keep are the ones that have high fertility and high longevity. I don't really care about immunity or size. These two are most important if you're just using the animals for breeding, but of course if you're going for golden animals, you know, like, you want to keep the ones with all good stats anyways. You care about all 4 stats. And then, yeah, this is literally what you do. And then, you know, you wait for these to rep, sell them, get a new pen, or get some other animals. You can also, like, have 1 pen of zebras and 1 pen of gazelles going or something. Doesn't really matter. Also, don't care about your guests. They don't matter. They'll donate. That's all you want. Literally, all you want is donations. Don't put up any, like, info stores or food stores or whatever. Visitors won't be the happiest because you do have the same animal multiple times. So, like, that's going to be an issue anyways. Oh yeah, I think the water here isn't clean, is it? It just about doesn't reach the water, goddammit. And that's an issue of mine, not an issue of the guide, but I do of course also make sure that all of that is fine. There's no problems with any sort of like water control or whatever. As I said, a new account, not doing this on my main account. And really, this is all you need to do. And it's gonna get you in pretty much endless amount of CC if you do it right. Just, you know, once you've got them, go to the animal trading post, select the species you are breeding with, which in our case will be plain zebras. See if you can find any good females for acceptable prices. So like, these are okay. None of them are rated gold or anything, but she has pretty good stats, for example, so the males also not too bad. Like, obviously these are freaking expensive. And then just put them on the trading post. Now, the pricing on the trading post, what I normally go by is like a mixture of, you know, what the game actually tells me to sell them for, and what the average price on the animal market is. The important thing is you don't want to put your animal in for like thousands of CC, because then people might not buy it. So just be aware that that is another issue, that you might want to watch the average price on the market. And I think it's better to sell an animal for like 200 CC less or something than to wait for 10 hours to sell it, but that's completely up to you in the end. You know, when you have golden lions and stuff, you can sell them for 1,500 each, and then you have like a big pen of lions with 29 females. You can see how you're making those CC really, really quickly. So at that point you really shouldn't have a problem. Getting to the lions it's not gonna take that long. You can get relatively cheap lions, probably like 1 or 2 zebra pens and you're done. And yeah, that's literally it. Start up your zoo, place down your pen, don't give a shit about anything else. Wait for a few hours, sell your lions, or your other animal you chose to work with, hippos, pandas, whatever. Right, one thing that is especially important if you do plan on using pandas, there is a difference between, you know, if you have the mother and the offspring living together in the habitat or not. Because as long as the offspring is living in the habitat with the mother, they will not get pregnant again. They will not mate again. Which is, for example, a big thing with pandas. You know, their interbirth period is 24 months, but the animals take 6 years to age up. This is 2 years and this is 6, so after 2 years of growth for the, you know, offspring, you put them in their own pen. You have like one area just for the offspring, for the baby pandas to grow up, and then you can sell those. That's just something that is specific for some animals, so I just wanted to make sure I'd say that as well. Take care of that, and, you know, watch out, make sure that you don't, you know, keep them in there. For some animals it doesn't matter as much, and as I said, you can see it in here, but if you want to optimize, you know, you normally want to get the offspring out so that you have more breeding going on. So like, same thing here, 60 months, 10 years. There's always 15 years, 60 months. There's always a relatively large discrepancy, except for example lions, where it doesn't matter at all. So just check in with, you know, Zoopedia if it's actually worth it. Saltwater crocodiles. Also animals that are worth going for. Because they have a lot of offspring. And like generally these lads, you know, saltwater crocodiles, Nile monitors, they don't make a lot of money, but if you want to have, you know, a different habitat with a different animal, these sort of reptiles are good because they have a lot of offspring. But just make sure that they do take a while to grow up. Not quite the time that turtles take, but it still takes a while. So that is something you should consider. And then, you know, all you gotta do is wait a bit and hope that everything works out. Make sure you don't get any inbreeding going. Maybe you do get some, you know, leucistic animals out of nowhere, and then you can just buy a second one and breed those too. That is always something you can go for. And of course, you can also take some of these animals out and put them into your actual zoos so that those start out with high quality animals, which is also a great way to boost a new zoo if you plan on having a new one. So yeah, I think I'm done. I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. I know that this isn't anything spectacular and most people probably already know how to do this, but if you're new to the game and you're permanently low in CC, that's how you can get yourself some. Also, some general advice, if you are new, as I've already said, Planet Zoo is selling all animals in the trading post in the animal market for a relatively low amount of CC, even if it is a rare animal, like the African elephant. They are selling them for 500 each. You don't have to buy these expensive ones. There will be ones from Frontier Zoo in here regularly. So if there's none up at the moment, just wait a few minutes. You don't have to buy the really expensive ones. In some species, the prices are just crazy. You can't really find anywhere else, whatever. Just wait for the Planet Zoo ones to appear. Frontier Zoo is regulating the market, so you'll be just fine. And yeah, I hope this helped one or two of you. Maybe now you can go and get all those really, really expensive animals. Or, you know, you can just get your own breeding going. I will be doing another breeding guide slash like animal welfare guide. I'm putting both of that into one guide. If you're interested in the specifics of sorry, how you breed animals and the best ways to breed animals, what influences you know, your animals' breeding habits and everything. But I think I covered the basics in this video, so I hope you enjoyed it and I hope I'll see you again in another video.